Okay, this last little bit is on solving polynomial equations. You guys really actually already know this, how to do this, but I'm going to walk you through some steps. It relies on this guy right here, zero product property. If you remember back when we were solving these quadratic equations, our first step was to get it equal to 0. And the purpose of that was if you have an equation like this equal to 0, and you can factors into x minus 7 and x minus 11, if that equals 0, then the only way that can happen is if one or both of those things in the parentheses equals 0. So I'd end up with x equals 7 and x equals 11, right? Natural. You guys have learned this in Algebra 1, Algebra 2. This class, we already talked about it and stuff, and those would be the solutions. Well, it turns out that formula, that zero product property, it can be more than 2 factors. It can be 10 factors. What matters is that they've all got to be being multiplied together, and then those, how many ever things you have, if their product equals 0, this still holds true. It's just that any one of those could be equal to 0. And that's the whole idea behind the solving equations. So we're going to solve these by factoring, or we're going to use the methods we just learned in finding zeros. To do it by factoring, you're going to make it equal to 0, try and factor it completely, then set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So next problem right here, 2x cubed minus 8x squared equals 0, check. Okay, I go to factor it, and I said, okay, what's the first step in factoring? First step is always to look for a GCF. Now you can write the work out to the side if you're not quite sure what the GCF is. That's 2x, 8x squared is 2x. They've got a 2 and 2 x's together. So we've got a GCF of x squared. Left over is x minus 4. Now I've got some stuff being multiplied together that equals 0, which means this might equal 0, or this might equal 0. This produces x equals 4. Now this one you have to do more steps, but you really kind of don't. Divide by 2, 0 divided by anything is still 0. Square root both sides. Square root of 0 is just 0. No plus or minus, just 0. And those are your solutions. Okay, we're going to try this one. We're going to solve the equation. We'll do it again by factoring. Looking at it, I see a GCF of 2. Then I looked at my cheat sheet and I said, wait a minute. That looks like it's quadratic in form, right? 3 terms. Remember, quadratic in form is when this power is even and this power is half of that number. So hopefully you remember that we're just going to solve it as if it were a regular old quadratic. Okay, factor it. It's going to be x minus 4, or x minus 4 squared if you'd like to do that. Either one, it doesn't matter. So this actually factors into x minus 4, except you got to change that power. It was x to the 4th here and x squared in the middle, which means the x squared is what goes there. Still got this 2 out in front. And it still said equal to 0. Now this 2 over here, you can think of it in 2 ways. You could divide everything by 2, which cancels those, and you still end up with x squared minus 4 equals 0. Either way. Or you can just think about it, if it was a factor, then my equation would look like that, and that doesn't even make sense. 2 is not equal to 0. So GCF without a variable has no effect on anything. Okay, now we're going to just finish solving. X squared minus 4 equals 0. Move that over. X squared equals 4. X equals plus or minus 2. So there's your solution right there. X equals plus or minus 2. Okay, this one, it isn't set equal to 0 yet, so that's going to be our first step. We're going to subtract 3 and add x squared. So it looks like this, x cubed plus x squared minus 4x minus 4 equals 0. Now, when you look at that, hopefully you see that there are 4 terms, so you could do factoring by grouping. But let's say you didn't recognize factoring by grouping, right? Maybe you didn't see that right away. You didn't recognize it. This right here is exactly what we were just doing, where we were finding zeros. Remember, if you can find a 0, then that actually came from a set of parentheses like this. So you can walk it backwards, and you actually are going to find solutions to this equation when you find the zeros. This right here, this equation, is if I had said f of x equals x cubed plus x squared minus 4x minus 4, and I asked you to find the zeros, we would have set it up, set it equal to 0, and then started our whole process of, okay, do I have any intercepts? Do synthetic division with my intercepts and keep working my way down. So look in the graph, you can see that there are 3 solutions, and they're at -2, -1, and 2. But you're not supposed to solve it from the graph. That's just a place to start. You have to use synthetic division to prove, to show me that that's the actual answer. I'm going to start with -2. Put in my values. Standard procedure. Woohoo! Okay, and then I also have -1, so I'm going to go with -1. Woohoo! I could have actually stopped one step before that, because I started at x cubed and I got to x squared right here. I could have stopped there and solved that quadratic. I just got going and kept going one more number because I had it. So my final equation is x minus 2 equals 0. And this actually looks familiar to me right here. X minus 2, that would be almost as if one of the factors in my equation, right, equaled 0. So these are my 3 x's, and those are the solutions to that original equation. So like I was saying, as soon as you know how to find zeros, you can solve any polynomial equation using those same ideas. Now this one, if you look at it, it's got an intercept there and an intercept there. So we for sure know that we've got intercepts, which are solutions at 0 and 2. All right, first step, we've got to get it equal to 0. So minus 16x squared plus 12x minus 16x squared plus 12x gives me 10x to the 4th minus 15x cubed, 16x squared, plus 12x equals 0. Okay, so at this point, and it's kind of up to you. You can either jump right into synthetic division and do 0 and 2, but when you see 0, it's not going to make a lot of sense. I mean, it will, but let's just do it so you can see. Sorry. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we go. Let's do a synthetic division with 0, just so you can see how it works. We got 10, -15. And there's a missing constant term, so we're going to put in a 0 there. We might not need it. We might. We'll see. Bring it down. Multiply. Bring it down. Multiply. Bring it down. Multiply. Bring it down. Multiply. Bring it down. Woohoo! That's my actual remainder. This constant term is necessary. So can you do it with 0? Absolutely. Look at what's left over. x to the fourth here. So now we're at x cubed, x squared, x, and plus 12. What you really just did there was pulled out a GCF of x. Right? See up here how everybody has at least one x? You could have pulled out an x and gone from there, but it really doesn't matter. You can jump right into synthetic division. Okay, so we also know that 2 right here is a solution, so I'm going to do that number next. Go and do it from these numbers, ignoring the blue variables. We can even write it again. Let's see, we're going to do 2 now, and with our new numbers, which happen to be the same, except for that missing constant. All right, here we go. Hoping for a woohoo. 2 times 10 is 4. 2 is 8. There's no woohoo. What could be wrong? Oh, look, it's 16. My bad. So this is going to be -6. There we go. I get worried. I'm like, did I make another mistake? They're never going to trust anything I say. -12, 0. Woohoo! So I've definitely got 0 and 2 as my solutions. I've check marked them because I know for sure that they are. I've proven it. So at this point, you can go in and put your variables in as well. Remember, we were at x cubed. So now we're at x squared, x plus a minus. So we're at 10x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. So now what? Well, we got to figure out the solutions to those. That's a regular old quadratic. We would have to, there's no GCF. My finger keeps drawing right over here. It's making a mess. And it's making me angry. 10x squared minus or plus 5x minus 6. We could try factoring with the cloud method. You could go directly to the quadratic formula. It would be completely up to you. Oops. All right, I'm just going to go right to the quadratic formula. Let's see if it's a big mess. Identify my variables. Opposite of b, b squared. And we've got a discriminant, d. Okay. Forget I was supposed to be talking to you guys. Just kidding, I would never forget. X equals -5 plus or minus square root of 265 over 2 times 10. Okay, let's see if we can break 265 down. Let's see, it ends in 5, so 5's a factor. 5 goes into that 53 times. I think 53 is prime. Let me think for a moment. Yep, 53 is prime. So that 265 isn't going to reduce. So we've got -5 plus or minus square root of 265 over 20.